Hello, this is Nikki Lynn Pugh, aka the Gentle Healthy Traveler, and this is the Victim to Victorious Summit. I have with me Erin Tietz. She is the founder of Fascia Fix. She's an expert in fascia, she's going to tell you all about it and how fascia connects with physical health and emotional health. And we're really going to dive in. Fascia isn't something that probably you might have even heard of, but it's super important. Erin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I'm happy to be here.
We're so honored that you're here and that you're able to provide us this information that, not too many people know about. I just want to point out that Erin is the founder of Fascia Fix. She's also certified in resilience stretching and holistic nutrition. She's a medical exercise specialist, and she used to be an NFL cheerleader.
I did back in the day.
Back in the day, and that's kind of where our story is going to start. Of course, we always like to get a little bit of, just get a little personal in the very beginning, just kind of connect. And like so many of us, you have had a victim to victorious story around your health journey and around your life. Tell us what happened in the beginning that led you to this very specialized but amazing field of study and practice.
Yeah, well, when I grew up, I was an athlete and I was a dancer, and it was so much of who I was and really shaped me as I became an adult. And probably in my late teens, I started experiencing chronic pain and dysfunction of muscles. And of course, that's frustrating. So then the feelings and emotions, along with being inhibited by my body and not being able to do what I was wanting to do, started to build up as well. So through time, it just kind of got worse, and I started having chronic pain in one area of my body, more specifically off my ischial tuberosity, or AKA your butt bone. So what happened physically to me was that as I was dancing, I was overstretching my muscles, and at the time I didn't understand it, now I do. But what happened is that when I overstretched, I started to accumulate scar tissue.
Okay.
So people can accumulate scar tissue because of a wound, surgery, but it can also happen internally. And that's what happened to me. So it started to build up scar tissue. It's a wonderful thing because the body's trying to protect us. So when you overstretch, so if this is my butt bone and these are my hamstrings, I would pull and pull and pull and demand too much from my body. And to protect me from actually tearing the muscle and tendon off the bone, scar tissue went like this.
Yeah.
It basically acted like cement, and it glued everything in place.
Wow.
As a protection. But what happened after that is I started to lose function of my hamstrings. I started to have piriformis dysfunction, and then chronic pain. So the chronic pain is really what led me down this journey, because at the time I didn't realize, but so much of my personality was, I describe it as being sucked into the scar tissue. It was pulling everything to it.
Wow.
Now that I understand it more, that really does happen. And through different therapies, I worked at a hospital in New York City for 10 years in outpatient rehab and physical therapy. And I asked everyone, who wants to work on me today? I need help. I'm in so much pain. And so I had all the best therapists working, trying different modalities, Novocaine injections, cortisone injections, massage, you name it, everything. Eventually, I had an MRI that showed the buildup of scar tissue internally, and my doctor's like, I'm sorry, but there's just nothing you can do. And he said, you can have surgery, but you're going to have more scar tissue. And I just was crushed. And in that moment, looking back now, I just felt so defeated that I was going to live with this chronic pain for the rest of my life. At the time, I worked very closely with people that live with multiple sclerosis, and I didn't allow myself to feel as frustrated as I was or mad about it, because I felt like my physical challenges weren't as great as others had. And so I didn't value my own emotions in that time, which also hurt me further. So I had my personality shifting. I wasn't doing the things I love to do. My friends would say, hey, let's go take a yoga class. And I would be like, hey, I'll meet you later.
At that point, you were not even able to do like a stretching with like yoga. Wow.
Stretching actually hurt me the most because the injury developed because I overstretched. I pushed my muscles past a point that they didn't have the capability of going.
Wow.
The reason it all began is I have one leg that's just a little bit longer than the other. So that imbalance, as I grew from being a child to an adult, and I was demanding of my body during that time, my body just adjusted to make it work, whatever I was asking it to do.
Wow.
And eventually that's where the buildup happened. The imbalances became very, very strong. So I started almost twisting up. I call it a spiral. It's almost like a wet towel that gets twisted like this.
Wow.
And it stays that way. And fascia, which I'll talk about in a moment more deeply, holds you in place. It keeps you there. So at that point, then I started having rib cage pain in my left. It was like a zigzag of pain, this kind of bound up pain. So moving on, I lived in New York, did physical therapy for 10 years, moved back to Minnesota, which is where I'm originally from, and then started working with more private clients with multiple sclerosis. And I needed something to enliven things. I discovered activated stretching or resistance movement through a studio in Santa Barbara called the Genius of Flexibility. They offered a level 1 certification. I signed up, flew back to New York for a weekend intensive. And when I walked in day 1, they said, well, this work helps to clear dense fascia and scar tissue. And in my head, I was skeptical. I was like, well, good luck with that.
Right.
I have fun. I've been working on that for 10 years. And I told my instructor, I said, I have chronic buildup of scar tissue off my butt bone or issue tuberosity. So about halfway through the first day, she said, well, let me just work on you. And fascia is, I guess I should mention more broadly, connective tissue in our body. And it comes in different forms. It's a matrix, it's a web, it's literally everywhere.
Wow.
But for me, I understood that, but I also was told that I can't change that.
Yeah.
I can't change scar tissue.
Yeah.
So, and fascia is stronger than muscle, about 6 to 10 times stronger than muscle. That's an estimate, could be more. And so halfway through the first day, my instructor, she's like, I'm going to work on you. And I said, okay. So I laid down. I was actually 5 months pregnant at the time too. And I had people holding me on my shoulders and my hips because fascia is stronger than muscle. And I'll tell you about the movement in a second, but it's really opposite of stretching. This isn't stretching at all. It's activated movement. So she performed 3 fascia activations on me, one for my hamstrings, and then internal and external rotation of my hip. In the first moment that she went into my hamstrings, I feel like my eyes went like this. And in that moment, I knew in my soul that she was reaching in and touching the one spot that no needle could ever get to. No finger massage, nothing.
Wow.
No treatment. And I was like, that is it. It's almost like I had tears immediately streaming down my face. And part of me knows that it's because I knew that change was happening in my scar tissue. I knew enough of the physiology to understand, like, this is it. This is it. But at the same time, it was an explosion of emotions. Literally, I can't even describe what my mind was going through. People suffer a lot more pain, but pain is pain, whether it's a small pain or a big one. If it's there and it's present in your life, it's present every day.
You mentioned that your personality was in that. Expand on that, because I feel like that's connected to maybe what happened to you just at that moment. I mean, what do you mean by your personality was in that area?
I felt like I was muted. I felt like who I was deep inside was in a shadow, partly because I wasn't doing the things I love to do in my life because I was scared of the pain. So I think it was some of the decisions I was making and letting the pain be the guide rather than my heart or my soul be the guide.
Okay.
I held back on all the things I wanted to do. I didn't want to push myself anymore. And I think what happens, and I'll elaborate still on this too, is that emotions, feelings, fear, personality, can get trapped within the body, and we've heard that before. But more specifically, I think it really is more focused in almost like a snapshot in our fascia and for me, my scar tissue.
Wow.
And so it's almost like your body has to do a detour when you have these blocks or
Yeah.
adhesions or
Yeah.
restrictions. So
Yeah.
mine was very significant, and it had been so many years. It was old and hard and dense and just not flowing, not fluid, all of the
That's
things you want it to be.
that's so powerful. That you were laying there, and then just with like one activation act movement, you felt the physical and the emotional kind of like release. Now there is a connection, correct, between fascia and the nervous system, or go ahead and feel free to just let
Yeah,
us have it. Just tell us everything you know. I think at this point, people are like, I want to know about this fascia
right.
system. What is this? I've never heard this before. So feel free to just download on us at this point.
Right. So, for example, in that moment when that release was happening, my
Yeah.
nervous system hadn't been reaching an entire area of my body. When
Wow.
you have scar tissue, again, think of like a detour in the road. You have to go around it. And so all of the muscles
Right.
had been in response, and that's why there was, so much pain. So if you can imagine like laying on your back with your knees bent, my one leg, my hamstrings just aren't functioning anymore because the nervous system couldn't get to them as well as it should have. So when she started the fascia activations, she would go a half an inch and I'd be like, okay. And then I'd lose the control of the muscle. So she'd start again. I'd contract, she'd move, and then she'd go a little bit farther because the scar tissue was changing. So after about 10 minutes, it was for me like a flood. And our nervous system's connected to all the other systems and the communication of the body.
Absolutely.
A flood of emotions. I sat there and I just started bawling, hysterical bawling, and everyone's like, "Are you okay?" Like, because I was pregnant, people are worried. I'm like, no, yes, I'm fine. And I bent over and I touched my toes, and I could feel my hamstrings shorten and stretch and lengthen. And I had no pain. I was 100% pain-free from the pain that was gripping me for 15 years straight.
Wow.
And I walked around the streets of New York, which I lived for 10 years, and I just sobbed, literally just overwhelmed. I couldn't stop it even if I tried. It was the most physical release of energy, emotions, pain, and it was overwhelming in such a beautiful way because I just knew my life had changed so dramatically. And I literally have been doing this ever since, and teaching this work and expanding and educating. And so with the nervous system, going back to your question about that, what's interesting about the nervous system and fascia is wrapped around every nerve. It's wrapped around every muscle fiber, around every muscle. It connects the muscles to each other, but also separates them at the same time. We want things to slide and glide. When we get constricted in our body, we stop the flow of the nervous system, the lymphatic system, the circulatory system, chi, everything. It has to reroute. And it can also involve your organs. So a lot of this work can also be tied to traditional Chinese medicine. For instance, if I am trying to work on detoxifying my liver, I would go to the liver meridian in my body. It would also be associated with anxiety. And I could work that particular meridian doing a fascia activation within that meridian to help the energy flow in that way as well. So that's part of it with the nervous system. When it comes to our body and the nervous system being in fight or flight, we're all familiar with what that means, that constant level of stress within our body.
Yeah.
The feeling that we get, and we get stuck in that, and how to get out of it. There's so many amazing modalities out there and ways to do it. And I think a combination of all of them is tremendously beneficial. And I think this work is very much complementary to that as well. So what I mean by getting out of fight or flight, when we hold emotions and tension within our body, it gets almost impermeated in that area. A fascia acts like a library, its own memory bank For example, if back when someone is young and there is physical or emotional trauma that they experience in their life, what can happen in that moment is that the fascia works independent of the body and of the brain, and it can constrict. And it almost like a gripping feeling in protection is saying, there's a problem here. I'm going to step in and help, because the nervous system at that point might not be doing its job to get out of the fight or flight. So the fascia is like, I got it. And then it stays there. It's very, very commonly experienced in the hips, in the psoas, in the chest as well. It's everything that we pull into ourselves in protection, and it just gets stuck in the library and filed away.
What is the fascia made of specifically?
Primarily collagen and elastin, different protein.
Okay.
Fascia is kind of like an internal webbing. So the fascia on top of your head, underneath the skin, before you get to your skull, is attached to your big toe. It's all interwoven. That's why there's not so much layers, because they're not separate. They're more different densities along the way.
This might sound weird, but if we could like take it out of the body and just put it like it is, you know, separate right here, there's all the fascia. It would actually be a web. It would probably be in the shape of our skeleton or something, right?
You actually took some written copy that I wrote to describe. You really did. It's amazing. I would describe it, and I would say, if you took away your skin, your bones, all your muscles, all your organs, you would still have the shape of you.
And that's the fascia.
And that's how intertwined it is with everything in our body.
And what you're saying is that we all have heard that emotions get trapped, trauma, any kind of emotions get trapped in the body. But what you're really saying is that maybe more so than other parts of the body, it gets trapped in the fascia webbing. That's profound.
Yeah.
What's amazing is that no one's talking about it. You've heard it first right here on Victorious. You know, when I heard about fascia, it was actually within a spiritual context, and I can't even remember the reference, but it was about it being like a dense representation of an energy system, really, you know?
Certainly. It actually has its own electrical charge.
Wow.
That's what you think of acupuncture. If the Western mind wants to understand, like, how does acupuncture work?
Right.
So, and I don't know as much about all of that, but from my research and my teachings, that there is an electrical charge to our fascial system. And so when you stick a needle goes into a particular meridian in the body, it goes through the fascia, and that can then communicate to whatever organ system you're trying to work on. And again, I don't have as much information about that, but there is some level of a physiological explanation of why acupuncture works.
You know, another thing I just wanted to point out is that your story is really powerful. Because there's so many of us, myself included, who have really suffered from years and years of pain, and to find a modality that works in such a rapid way as it worked with you, and then all of a sudden you're pain free for like the first time. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of viewers right now who can really relate to that. Like, somebody might be saying, I don't even know what it feels like anymore to not be in pain.
Right.
You know, and I'm not saying that this is the end all be all for you. I'm just saying, if you haven't tried working with your fascia, you know, especially if you have, you're going to talk about some of maybe the conditions, you know, of course, this is all, you know, anecdotal, just Erin sharing her information. We're not recommending anything. We're not doctors. We're just sharing stories here. That being said, if you have not worked on this part of your body, I really encourage you to think about it, consider it. Right. So Erin, tell us like maybe some of your experiences, if you want to share that, some of your experiences with your clients and things like, and even recently, like what's been happening.
It's been profound. I have been so fortunate to be able to experience and witness people having emotional shifts while doing this work. So in my practice, I do work physically on people, and then I also teach people how to do it to themselves. So they can be anywhere, anytime, any place on their own and also benefit from the work. One particular testimonial I received from someone was that she was on her mat going through some of my coursework and doing a practice. She felt fine, everything was great, and then she got in her car and she was driving into the grocery store and she just stopped and she's like, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. And she pulled over and cried for like 45 minutes. She's like, it was just like I couldn't stop it from coming, much like what happened to me in my experience too. And then I said, well, how are you afterwards? And she's like, I just felt like something lifted, something shifted within my body. That was a really wonderful, I had never put my hands on her. So that was all the work that she was being able to do on herself and kind of dive in and be mindful about her own body. And, but it was still a little bit of a surprise because sometimes it might surface. And I say to people, if you feel it surfacing and you're ready for it, then it's a beautiful moment to let it come and move through the body. And if not yet, then, you know, knowing that it's there and maybe later. It's very much a journey, you know, just as most things are in life. But, and another time I had a woman that I was working with that we had talked for an hour about all of this. And so we had talked about the emotional component of the work. And then I saw her in person, and we had a very good positive energy right from the beginning. We felt very comfortable with each other. And so I started working on her, and I said, okay, I'm going to work on the hips now. And I didn't know much about her past experience at that point. And as I started doing the very first fascia activation, she goes, hey, up, I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry right now. And I took a step back and I said, take your time. I'm here and I'm holding this space for you. If you're you know, ready for it, then it's safe to let it come. And so she cried for about 10 minutes, and it was a really beautiful moment. And there was a connection that was safe between us during that time. So I've had a couple of those type of experiences.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of times we don't have to know exactly where the crying or the emotions coming from. Like our mind wants to try and figure it out. Okay, why am I crying? What memory is it connected to? What was I thinking? What was I eating? Right? But you know what I mean? It's like we don't really have to know, right?
Right.
You just let it flow. But in your experience, it seems like that these experiences of emotional release are happening so frequently with your work with fascia that this is kind of just something that you tell folks, right? Like, hey, you kind of expect it at this point.
Yeah, I do. I almost always, working with a new client, will say something in terms of sometimes this work can feel emotional unexpectedly, just so they have a heads up. Like,
right,
something
like,
shifts
okay.
here. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's almost like a relearning and a re-remembering, because in our culture, with Western medicine and stuff, we're so compartmentalized. We don't really automatically think of the connection between the emotions and the physical body. So it's like we're relearning, and I just see you as like an amazing teacher for helping us to relearn by actually us experiencing it, that connection. Right. So how can we help our fascia?
There's a lot of ways. Of course, there's a lot of modalities out there that require things like balls or sticks or foam rollers, Thera blasters, all these things. I can't say much to them in terms of how they affect the fascia. I primarily use just the body. And when it comes to the body and doing the fascia work, there's one thing that's important to note, is that we have a lot of nerve endings in our fascial system, meaning that we have pain receptors and proprioceptive receptors. So what that means for pain is that if someone's experiencing pain, let's say here, we're going to do something for the traps today. So we'll use this as
we're going to do some exercises. I love it.
Yeah. So if people find themselves kind of always going to this spot, like, oh, it's getting bad.
Right.
There's pain receptors, and the fascia is what's communicating to the nervous system, to the brain. Something's wrong here. Very commonly, though, this isn't where the initial problem is. Usually, where we feel it is an indication, it's a symptom of some sort of block somewhere else in the body, whether it's maybe the rib cage shifted or twisted or rotated or tilted, or the pelvis, or your lateral hamstrings aren't contracting as they should be, and the medial hamstrings are doing too much. So, but we can control and spot treat some areas of pain. So if someone's experiencing pain here, you can do a fascia activation, almost like taking an Advil and anti-inflammatory, and it goes how it knows to go there, right? So you can spot treat pain. Proprioception also, like the awareness of where your body is in space. So the fact that my brain knows that my hand is here, that's proprioception. So there's nerve endings in the fascia that are communicating with my brain, saying, my hand is right here.
Okay.
Those are things that are important to note about this. So you can help to control and decrease pain at the same time getting other benefits for the body too.
Okay.
So the way to do it, so in traditional stretching, there's a lengthening of the muscle. And a lot of times people try to make that length longer and become more flexible.
Right.
But you can only lengthen one muscle as long as the other side can shorten. So if you're trying to, let's say, increase flexibility or length in your bicep, if your tricep doesn't shorten, that's going to limit this. So this work is opposite of stretching. So there's no lengthening, holding, going past that point. There's no end range stretching at all.
Okay.
So with this, it's opposite. So if you want to affect the fascia, let's say in the bicep, the fascia is wrapped around the muscle, it separates a muscle, like I said before, and it wraps around every single muscle fiber, and then it gathers into tendon to attach to bone. So to shorten, you would bring, like almost like a lever, you bring your fist in. So that shortens the muscle first. So almost like it's like kind of gathering the fascial matrix anywhere in this area up. Then you have to add tension. Fascia loves tension and compression. So to do that, you want to flex the muscle. So I'm resisting as if I'm pulling my hand towards my shoulder and creating a bicep contraction.
Oh.
Keeping the muscle contracted, I would then elongate, not stretch, but elongate. And here's where the nervous system is playing a role. My nervous system is telling me how far I can go. If I lose the contraction or if it stops, I don't continue. You only continue with the movement as long as you're able to maintain a muscle contraction.
Wow.
So the equation, I call it the fascia equation, is to shorten the area that you're focusing on, add resistance or compression by contracting, keep the contraction through movement in the opposite direction, never going to end range. Yep. So that,
and there is a point where it feels like my muscles get, I don't know if it's muscles, but something gets weak. I'm not able to contract as more, and that would be the point where you would stop. Now it feels kind of like you're not doing anything. You know what I mean? It's like, am I getting it? I'm not getting a good stretch in. No, we're not doing a stretch. We're not doing a stretch.
We're not doing a stretch. The benefit is at the very beginning of movement, that contraction. So the nervous system, here we go with the nervous system again. My nervous system is happy because rather than just being out here in space, I have a closed change. So my brain senses that this arm is pushing into this hand. So it's like, okay, my brain's like, I got it. And I start to move. And if that nervous system and muscle disconnect, I would pause. I could try to get it again before continuing, but I would just start it again. So you get more elongation, the more the nervous system and the muscles and the fascial network are working together well.
You know, I've just recently started working with some of your videos, and you can really get, I mean, like, doesn't feel like you're gonna work up a sweat, but you start working up a sweat, and then afterwards I have such a sense of calm, quite frankly, which for me is very welcome and doesn't happen because I tend to be pretty high strung. And so, like, wow, this is really the end result, you know, guys. If in the middle of doing something, if you're like, why am I doing this, monkey mind, you know, I'm not getting any results. Again, I always say, measure how you're feeling overall, stress, tension in your body, whatever, before, give it a measure between 1 and 10, and then measure it afterwards and see how you feel. Overall health, right? And overall just feel good, calming stress responses and feeling good in your body. And I think my score goes down at least 6 or 7 points every time I do the exercises. So it's really working on such a deep level. Do you want to do some more exercises?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a few.
I was just saying that your description is really good, and I don't talk about how involved the work really is, but your whole body is working. And it's almost, some people describe it like a massage and a workout from the inside out.
That sounds so good.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, please. Yes. I want one.
It can get kind of addicting once people get into it. I have people being like, oh, I just crave it in my body. And people actually start using it in their yoga practice.
Yeah.
And using the equation, or like they do it before their yoga class so that they have more neural connection to their body and muscles.
So good.
Yes, so let's do a couple. I have a couple planned today. So the equation is to shorten, activate, and move. So I figured sitting here, most people have some level of tension in the back of the neck and in the traps here, and then underneath the scapula and back. So we'll start first with a test. We're going to do the back of the neck, and then we're going to do a little fascia hug for the front of the neck, and then retest, just as you said, to retest the back of the neck connection.
Okay.
So starting here, in my videos I talk a lot about the setup and everything, but for purposes for our video, just making sure that the head isn't too far forward, that it's gently pulled back, your chin towards your throat and down just a little bit to create a little length in the back of the neck. Taking both hands behind your head, so you're going to intertwine, and starting here. All right. Next, if you can, just tilt to look up. You don't want to crunch in the back of the neck, but it's just a small lift of the chin. So now the activation happens. You shortened the muscles in the back of your neck. Contract them by pressing the head back into your hands until you feel the muscles contract in the back of your neck on either side of your vertebrae and spine. Then you let your hands overpower and gently guide the head forward, all the while keeping the chin towards the throat to keep proper alignment of your vertebrae. Never going to end range, so pausing when you start to feel a bigger pull or a classical stretch, then relax, bring it back up to start again. So your slight chin tuck, press the hands back, engage your belly muscles to give your spine some support, and then let your hands overpower the resistance and guide your head down, all the while keeping contracted in the muscles in the back of your head. Let's do 2 more here. Feel the resistance going back. Hold that for a second. I like to have people hold for a second or 2 before the movement so their nervous system has the appropriate amount of time to commute to where you want it. 1 more time, resist back. Keeping the resistance, abdominals engaged, and letting the head come forward. Keep connected to the hands. And relax the arms. And just take the first note of how that feels. You could be experiencing different things. Some words people say, like there's a freedom or a softness or an airy, floaty feeling. Mm-hmm. But now we're going to go to the front of the neck. So I said a lot of times our body holds more of our emotions in the chest, front of the neck, hips.
Yeah.
So you're going to take your hands kind of like a butterfly, and you're going to go to the base of your neck. I call this a fascia hug. And you're really pinning and holding your skin. So you're pressing slightly in and down. Your chin starts down, so you're shortening the tissue in the front of your neck. Once you have the skin in place, you're pressing down slightly with your fingers. You do a slight lift of your head, and it's almost like you're jutting your chin up. So you're not lifting, you're dropping your head back. You're looking up on the diagonal and then reach your chin to the sky at the same time the hands are pulling down in the opposite direction. And then relax to start again. So we'll hold the skin. Yeah.
That's an interesting sensation.
It's really interesting when you start to focus on either side of the neck. Usually one side is like, what is happening? And the other one's like, not so bad. We'll do 2 more of these here. So you're pressing down and in. Now feel your fingertips engage down into the skin a little bit more, and then you're reaching up. Your chin's going to reach up to the sky. making sure you keep the length in the back of the neck. If anyone's feeling discomfort in the back of the neck or it's crunchy and not feeling quite right, then don't go very high. Start back and only work pain-free. And then relax to bring it back down. Reset. Now finding again your center core. I can be more specific with that, but for now just engaging your abdominals, and it's a slight jutting of the chin. The chin is the key element here. And then release. Good. And then we'll take our hands back to the back of the head again and retest. So you're finding your neutral neck position, tilting and look up slightly, pressing the head back. You might notice that there's a clearer connection right away. And then let those arms win. So your arms are getting the workout as we're working the fascia in the back of your neck. Always keeping connected to your hands so your brain knows how far to go. Notice the difference in that first activation. And we'll do it one more time. Good. And if you're feeling unstable on the way up, you can let the head push your hands back up, and that might give you more stability. Last time, feel the back of the neck contracting. Find that neuro connection. Keep that muscle, those muscles contracted, and your hands are guiding your head, chin towards your tuck, forward and down. People might feel this down the mid-back, between the shoulders, or even all the way down to the sacrum. Nice and strong on the way up, staying connected to look forward.
Yeah, I was feeling it all the way down to like the bottom of my, kind of like my butt bone, like all the way down there.
Wow.
So that's recalibrating. I don't want to say stretching, but it's recalibrating, activating that fascia network all the way down.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. It's almost like it reorganizes it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Can working with your fascia in this way, gentle movements and activations, be beneficial for somebody with fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome?
I have gotten messages from people that it has. I always say to check with their doctor first before trying the work, of course, and make sure they get the A-OK. But when they do, I have had really, really powerful messages come from people that have fibromyalgia, specifically that. But it's been really amazing. I haven't actually worked on someone directly with my hands, but I have many Parkinson's and MS, and so it's quite an interesting reading of the body when there's a neurological condition. But for reasons that I'm trying to understand and learn more, for fibromyalgia, it's really, really amazing. So from what people have told me.
What people have said. And you also right now are working with people with Parkinson's and MS as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing, amazing.
Do you want to do one more for the trap here?
Let's do one more, yeah.
Okay, let's do one more. This one's great. So if anyone's sitting and they're starting to feel that tugging here, this can be done anytime, anywhere. You can be standing, sitting. So you'll take one hand. I'll mirror you. So let's do this one. Yep, here's a left hand. Left hand, you're right. Or yeah, right, yeah.
Do I switch? I'm kind of
no. We'll mirror each other. This is good.
Directionally dyslexic here, so
we're gonna do both. So
okay.
So across this hand over onto the other shoulder.
Okay.
Next, lift your elbow up like this, so that we're shortening the trap by bringing the elbow up. Next, your other hand is going to reach on top of this arm, so your fingertips are on top, and that's really important for the brain. Exactly, okay. Really good. So this is your first position, noticing if your ribs shifted out of the way. Try to center. You're pressing your elbow up into your fingertips. Once you feel it contract right in that trap, keep contracting that muscle, focusing on it. And then you let your other hand overpower and slowly guide the elbow down towards your chest. Only moving as long as you have the muscle contracting. And then at the end,
it's right about there.
And then relax, bring it up, and you can already see the range of motion for me, even just when I went up about an inch higher than the first one.
Oh yeah,
let's do two more. So find that pressure of the elbow up, keep it, contract, think about the contraction of the trap, and you can even move your head in the opposite direction as you bring the elbow down and get a little bit in the front of the neck. Yep.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Right here.
Good.
Wow.
And then let's do one more. Raise that elbow up. Keep it contracted. Press it up. Hold it for 1. Hold it for 2. Keep contracting. And each rep feels a little bit different than the previous. Make sure the shoulder blades are pulled back. Moving the head if you want. And then relax.
Wow.
Yeah, and we'll do 3 on the other side. So cross, and it's nice to see the difference. You know, and sometimes people are like, whoa, this side really needs it. So looking at the range of motion, so seeing where you start, you're just lifting the elbow wherever it will go, fingertips on top, elbow presses up, hold it for 1, hold it for 2, let the nervous system find that muscle, think about the contraction, almost visualizing it within your body. And then you're guiding the elbow down, always pressing it up. So the key with this is to never be passive. There's always a connection the whole time.
Okay.
And then relax when it's at the end, bring it back up, and see what happens if you engage your pelvic floor or your deeper core muscles, such as your transverse abdominis, your internal, external obliques. You're giving your rib cage more stability. It then will also target the muscle that you're working on more specifically. Last one, find that, maybe bring your elbow across the body, maybe you turn the head. You can start to add your own elements to the work because everyone's fascial system is different. So what one person feels really intensely in one angle could feel very different to someone else in that same angle, and then it might feel better for them in a different angle.
So as you're doing the movements, you can kind of never, I'm assuming never deviate from the contraction experience and that tension, but you can kind of move around with it a little bit.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, this area definitely feels different. It definitely feels more, like you said, massage from the inside out.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's more stretchy. It's just,
There's just kind of I just do this, apply to the whole body, and just reaching in and just diving in and trying to find the space or the place that tools can't get to.
and you would think with all the modalities that you have used and that we all use, that a modality would be able to reach it, but this is our own bodies, moving our own bodies in a certain way with guidance from an expert like you can really help us, like you said, touch those inner parts. It's just like so amazing. Trying to think if I'm going to start crying. No, just I felt it coming up. Like, nope, we're not going to go there right now on camera. But I wanted to let people know as we're coming to a close. First of all, was there anything else that you wanted to share with us as we wrap? This has been amazing.
I guess there's the one thing that just plays into the conversation about the nervous system is our patterns of certain repetition and things that we do. And as we age, our fascial system becomes less hydrated. But what this work is aiming to do is to hydrate and lubricate the fascia matrix so that there's more, excuse me, I think my neighbor next door has a vacuum going. I should warn them. I'm like, no. You want sliding and gliding. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to, yes, break up adhesions that don't necessarily need to be there, but we want this internal sliding of gliding of our muscles and our abdominals against our organs, the fascia under the skin, the slide and glide. The more we hydrate and lubricate the fascial system, the less achy and stiff we feel just on a physical stance as we move through life. So when I look at people's patterns and posture, so if someone's shoulder is elevated or their rib cage is twisted or their pelvis is tilted that way, all of those patterns are giving us a clue as to what's happening with our fascial system. So when we can identify and investigate some of these things about the patterns and postures with which we hold ourselves, we can start to do the unwinding or despiraling of the fascia. So that was the last kind of important part of it. Yeah.
So even though we might, get our required liters or ounces of water in and eat right and stuff, if we're not moving and opening this network, doing stuff like this, it's just the way I'm seeing it is like just not able to.
It's a new way to get in, and it's really amazing when people try it for the first time. And I always keep saying this, it was like my eyes went like this, like, oh my gosh. You know, and people talk about it being the missing link, and people are going to hear about fascia a lot more now. So I'm one of a lot of people out there now that are talking about it, and there's a lot of beautiful ways to affect it. But the health of the fascial system is going to be something that we're going to see as, I hate to say the word trend, but one that's a very good one, but in fitness, activities, sports, healing, emotional health, I think all these different areas
Yeah,
are
and
going to
it
be
seems
hearing
like
about it.
you, however, are on the forefront of connecting the fascia with the emotions. You've been starting to do some speaking and stuff, right? On that.
Yes.
Do you see that you're going to be doing more like videos or work in that arena, or what do you think?
Definitely. It's
It's
definitely
it's
in the
amazing.
plans for sure. Because
I love it. I
yeah,
love it. That's
yeah.
exciting. Go to fascia-fix.com, correct? And we'll put the link in the description. And you have been very extremely generous with offering a promotional 20% off. Do you want to talk a little bit about the two programs that can apply to? And we'll have a promo code, I guess, in the description as well.
Yes, so on my website, yep, you're correct. It's fascia, Fascia
Mm.
dash fix.com. And I have two courses available on my website. One of them is called the 5-Day Fascia Fix, which is an introductory course. And it's a five basic lessons. And in each lesson is about a 10-minute video. And I demonstrate a fascia activation for 3 areas of the body. And through those 5 lessons, you'll have them tried a fascia activation for all the parts of your body. There's an introductory video, and then there's a bonus at the end. And so it's a very quick way to step into the work and find a foundation to start from. And then I have a course for neck pain. So it's more specific. The fascia work is more geared towards working the fascial matrix in the areas that contribute more specifically to neck pain. And that's called Fascia Fix Neck Pain. And so there will be a promo code for 20% off each of those courses on my website. Yeah, and there's
So
also
good.
a free 20-minute fascia flow class
Oh, good.
on my website too. So there's if you want to try the work, there's a link that you can pop on that, and it's a 20-minute class.
So for that, people would just go to your direct website, fascia-fix.com, and then look for that. Would it be like right there on the
It's
homepage?
on the homepage. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sounds good. 20 minutes, that's very generous. Go check it out, guys. Erin, thank you so much. I feel like this is just part one of more conversations I'd love to have later as we get our show going and all that stuff going into the new year. Yes, there will be a show. I'm not sure if it's going to be called Victorious or not, but love to have you back. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Check out her work and her promo code and all her stuff in the description below. This is Nikki Lynn Pugh, aka the Gentle Healthy Traveler. Folks, it's been such an honor to be with Erin and to talk to her, and we will see you. Check out our other videos. There's more to come. We will be seeing you next time. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye.